With Black Beacon's release today, the classic cycle of enjoying a new game on release has come around once again. Because of this, today I have 5 tips from testing and researching the game for hours so that you don't fall behind. Before I get into it though, I'd like to make it clear that this video is not sponsored by any means, but if Black Beacon would like to sponsor me, my DMs are open. Without further ado though, let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the Gacha banner, and though this is not necessarily a tip, this is more of an understanding of how the Gacha banner works so that you can better manage your resources for whatever goal you have with the game. Now I want to come out and state first and foremost that this is a game with much better rates than most other Gacha games, with the limited character banner having 70/30 rates. There are also improved features of the banner, including things like pity carrying over, a 70 hard pity as opposed to the typical 84 or higher, and of course the soft pity starting at 45, which honestly is pretty low all things considered. Now because of the way that currency works in Gacha games, these hard pities don't mean too much, but just from this alone, having a 70/30 character banner for limited characters is pretty nice. Now the next thing we should talk about is the weapon banner, and the most interesting thing about this specifically is the fact that it is a 100% guaranteed to get the limited weapon assuming you pull it, but this time around the pity for the weapon banner is only 50 as opposed to the character banner, which is much more. Now for transparency as well, every character in this game has their own unique weapon, but don't let either of the things that I just mentioned take away from the real star of the show, which is the fact that there is a standard character selector that you get after 30 pulls on the Mortal Wanderings banner. The next thing I want to talk about is the free characters that were given, and to be honest, I have even more good news for those of you that are curious about free characters and for those of you that want to play the game more freely or without having to spend. First and foremost, we're introduced to 3 characters that we get for free at the start of the game, and that's Zero, Shamash, and Ninsar. Now to be clear, although things will change in the future, currently, Ninsar and Zero are good supports, and Shamash is a decent starter DPS as well if you choose to invest in him. Now speaking of characters and roles in the game, however, we should now talk about the labels and distinctions for the roles in the game, and the first thing you'll notice is that destruction characters are designed to be the main DPS, balance characters are a secondary DPS or offer some other function to the team, and finally supports are primarily dedicated for buff, debuffers, and sustain characters. Now the next thing that we should talk about is the events / activities that you should be doing as you begin the game, and although these are not necessarily limited events, these are still events that you should complete in general as they give you the most rewards and the most impactful ones as well. The first and most prominent of the events is the Vision Expansion event, and with this you gain things like limited pulls alongside premium currency, and these will unlock as you spend more and more time and level up in the game. Now of course these aren't rewards that you all gain access to at the very beginning, as you do need to level up your account level, but the rewards are very impressive as just by limited pulls alone, as they do count for 50 pulls that you can use towards your custom character pity. Moving along, the next thing I want to talk about is investment of resources and where you should be prioritizing some of your early energy. Now before we get into that, you should definitely always complete your dailies and weeklies as there's a ton of EXP and benefit to doing them, but you already knew this as you're likely someone that's already played Gacha games before. Moving along though, in terms of how you should be spreading your resources across the board, focusing on a core team early is going to be ideal. However, I do want to mention that from the story that I've seen thus far, they do lock you behind using certain characters at time, so it may not always be necessary to level up every single character to max, as there are often characters that you can use in place of them. Now in regards to leveling up the characters specifically though, you should be prioritizing upgrading the character and ascending them alongside upgrading their character skills as opposed to leveling gear early on. Now finally, although the past couple sections you might have noticed were more explanations of the systems in the game, I do actually have a complete section of tips and tricks specifically that I found while playing through the game. And what better way to do so than to start off by giving you 2 codes that they've revealed for us, and in this case it's Welcome to Babel and Seek the Truth. Now in case you aren't familiar with how to get to the redemption code location, all you have to do is click this bottom left icon here, click on Settings, go to Account, then click on the button on the bottom here which reads Redemption Code. This will open up a web page which prompts you to copy this CS code here at the top, and once you copy this CS code and put in the keywords that I included earlier, you'll have the rewards on your account in no time. Now free codes aside, there were a few things that I encountered while trying to maneuver and clear through the story. Now one of the first things I discovered while going through the campaign is that I missed a few chests, as this is more of an exploration game at times, and when coming back and revisiting the missions, I was fearful that even though I'd have already received one of the rewards, I'd have to clear through the rest of the story and repeat the content again in order to actually clear and receive the reward. Well, thankfully this actually isn't the case, and the second that you receive the rewards from said chest that you missed, you can immediately leave no problems whatsoever. Furthermore, when you first approach and play the game, you'll be prompted to choose between playing top-down or in free mode, and I recommend top-down because the act of auto-attacking while also controlling the camera with your left click at the same time is very dizzying and also uncomfortable at times. In top-down mode, the camera is fixed and follows you, so this is more comfortable, at least in my opinion. In addition to this, I also rebound my basic attack from my spacebar, as using all of my abilities and moving with just one hand felt really clunky and honestly pretty bad. Now, before I go any further, I do need to pause here for a moment because this is what I had originally felt when attempting to progress through the combat of the game. However, as I later realized, the exploration and being able to move your camera around is very important in this game, and because the non-top-down mode is helpful for discovering clues or for looking around the area, I was actually forced to go back into free mode, which then caused me difficulty when trying to move my camera, as my left click was bound both to dealing basic attacks and also moving my camera at the same time. This is a problem because as of right now, if I decided to basic attack, I am unable to move my camera at the same time, which you can imagine starts to get annoying, as I then have to swap between top-down and free mode camera view quite often. To be honest, I don't exactly have a perfect solution for how to change this. Hopefully there is something in the future where we're able to rebind something like the camera to the right click, or even rebind basic attacks to the right click, as this would make this much easier. But as of now, from what I can tell, the only thing that you could change is your basic attack to your mouse click 0, aka your left click, which again is not a perfect solution, as I mentioned earlier. Now, the final tip that I have for you is actually for those of you that for whatever reason still want to reroll, and in that case you actually have to reach stage 1-4 in order to unlock the mailbox, and thus, in case you were curious about how long it took me to do that, it took roughly 10 minutes once I actually knew what I was doing. That's going to be it for this video though, guys. I'll include some b-roll so you can kind of see what the exploration and the combat of the game looks like. But overall, Black Beacon's pretty interesting. I was extremely lucky in terms of my pulls, completely free to play by the way, which has definitely captivated and allured me to play a little bit longer. But I just wanted to get this video out for those of you that may have encountered some of these issues that I'm talking about or are unfamiliar with Black Beacon as a whole. Thanks again for watching though, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.
Then let's be a bit more serious.
Let's go. The road is long, and we can't afford to stop.
Fluttering wings. Fluttering wings. Full.
The fire is burning. The fire is burning. Forgive all sins.
Fluttering wings. Full. Onto.
Blooming from the flames. In the name of Florence. May their souls rest in a garden full of blooming flowers.